What's up, everyone? Welcome to the One Club, a podcast for visionaries, builders, and purpose-driven individuals committed to growth, clarity, and meaningful relationships. This isn't motivation. This is transformation. Here we talk business, we talk personal growth, we talk relationships, honestly, intentionally, and without filters. Because building a life bigger than yourself requires more than ambition. It requires standards, discipline, and the courage to become who you're meant to be. If you're here to just consume, this isn't for you. But if you're here to build, to raise your standard, and maximize the potential you were given, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Louis Xavier, and this is the One Club. Let's get into the show. Guys, welcome back to the One Club podcast. I'm bringing to you a new guest today, Aldo Chandra. He's doing big things in the AI space, in the real estate space. And I'm super excited to get into all the value that is to bring to the table in this episode. And Aldo, I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to start off with a question. Sure. The AI and real estate industry was valued at $2.9 billion in 2024 and is expected to grow at a 34.4% year over year growth to reach $33.4 billion in 2033. Where is the opportunity in mixing AI and real estate today?
Well, Louis, first things first, I'm glad that I'm on this podcast and to speak to your audience and hopefully to expand their knowledge about AI and how it correlates with real estate. Number one, those are big numbers, right? And some of those are projections. I'm not sure if they're going to hit that, but I know for sure that a lot of AI is being used by not just people in real estate, but also the general populations. And the first things first, like just from a general population, I think that I created a video of this like not too long ago that ChatGPT or just these chat LLM models, right? Claude or Perplexity, all of that will be something that you have to know. Essentially, if you're in a workplace and then you're utilizing ChatGPT, like you're okay. But then there's a level up to it where there's like agentic workflows and things like that where it could get a little bit more complicated. But essentially, in this environment today with AI growing rapidly, it's similar to like people have to know Microsoft Word or Excels, right? Those are really, really important skill sets to have. And same thing with prompting, agentic, right? Workflows, automations, all of that will be a required skill to have in order to survive in today's workplace. In the real estate world, I believe that nowadays you could utilize AI with some of the redundant automations or redundant tasks for these automations, right? So for example, if you're a real estate agent or a real estate investor, there's definitely a lot of admin work that you need to do, right? Sending out contracts, sending out addendums, all of these admin stuff that a receptionist usually do, and it is helpful to have. But I think that maybe some of that task or skills can't be implemented using automations. But that's just one part of the puzzle. There's a ton more, which I'm more than happy to go into in this podcast.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing. And that's why I've been looking forward to this episode so much, because there's two things I'm super interested in and love, and that is AI and real estate. And if we were to name one, it's just the AI and real estate, like that merge, just mixing the two and seeing how to make the most out of or execute better in real estate using AI. And those stats that I opened up this episode with are real. We're seeing more and more AI go into real estate and also other industries. So I'm eager to pick your brain and see what people that are listening to this podcast that may be in real estate, where they can find that leverage and what systems they can implement in their lives to better their business, execute better, faster, smarter, or whatever it may be. So I appreciate you sharing that. Another thing kind of like strikes my curiosity, right? And it's the process of knowing where to implement AI, right? Because you will have that real estate professional that sees all these TikToks and all this news on AI trends and ChatGPT and Gemini, but like, how do they get from hearing of the AI tool to actually implementing it and that working? What does that look like for you, at least?
I think that the answer to that question, it really depends on where you are in your journey, and specifically speaking of real estate, right? Because I was in a meetup probably not too long ago, and a kid who is just starting out in real estate, that he wants to implement AI. He's young, ambitious, and he's like, well, how can I get started in wholesaling, for example, right? That's my industry. I do wholesaling. And I told him that, don't don't use any tools, because tools are essentially, you have to know what you're going to do use the tools for, right? But right now you don't know anything. You have to learn. You have to consistently do the repetitions. And for example, what is the most important thing for you to do right now? Number one is learn, and then number two is implement, right? Executing on
Mhm.
what you have learned. And if you're utilizing our AI, like for example, our AI pre-qualifies the sellers, right? But then how are you going to build the AI when you don't even know the questions to ask? So I told him that, listen, don't use any tools right now, and just focus on doing things manually in order for you to understand the six systems and workflows in order for you to start using AI to help you scale.
Of
Now,
course.
that's for somebody who's just starting out. Now, if somebody who is a little bit more experienced, maybe they have done deals in the past, now
Mhm.
they spend too much time trying to make money, but not understanding enough to maybe how to scale more effectively, right? So in that case, figure out what is the bottleneck in terms of the redundant activities or tasks that you're doing on a daily basis, and figure out how to automate that, whether that's you're hiring a consultant like myself, or you're using like a system that's already a done for you setup, and then you just have to learn little by bits of how to implement some of those automated tasks, or tasks that can be automated, into your business in order for you to build more volume and make more money.
That's a great answer to that question, man, because I feel that in a nutshell, it kind of summarizes the ideation process for someone who wants to implement AI, to kind of understand what to do from like a bird's eye view. Something that I use in my business and what I'm trying to create is I love workflow mapping. Right. So on our prep for the episode, I discussed that I have a media operation, right? So it's like every Friday I will sit down and I'll ideate, and then Saturday and Sunday I'll record and batch all my content together, send it over to my editors, and then Monday I usually drop a podcast episode, and then all my content for the week is already set in stone. But this process, I've been having to do it manually for at least the last 2 or 3 months that I've been posting content consistently. But going back to your point, I did it manually. I recognize the patterns. I see what manual inputs I got, and now I'm using OpenClaw to create a media operating system. But the reason why I can prompt OpenClaw better is because I understand the actual process. And I feel that, and I don't know if you could tag along with me on this, but there are a lot of people out there that like get so high off of the buzzword AI that they just start subscribing to tools and get mad when they don't work. When it's like, hey, AI is only as good as how you are speaking to it in the direction you're giving it. This leads me to my next question, like what really is AI? Because you have the people who understand it like us, but then you have the people who think it's literally Jarvis that Iron Man uses. So
Yeah.
what is AI?
Well, even before understanding AI, you have to understand automations, right? And if I could make it simple as possible, automations is if and then, just in executions and planning. Obviously, what you mentioned, yes, you do require a lot of planning. And then the planning is like, what is the things that I want to automate essentially? So if this happened, then do this, right? So then now where the AI come in, obviously everyone knows AI is artificial intelligence, but where the AI comes in is that it's going to make a decision based on those if and then. It gets more complex. Now you have multiple different automations. You have what's called trigger, right? What is triggering this AI to do said tasks? Now, if that happens, then do this AI. But then if that doesn't happen, there's like somewhere in between. Now you have to make a decision depending on the data that you have provided in order to do the said actions. And I think that's what nowadays, like the workflows, the automations, the AI will make a decision based on existing data or context in order to take an action of your whatever it is that you provided to take actions on.
Sweet. That in layman's terms, you put that together perfectly because that's digestible for the non-tech savvy individual to get a good understanding of what AI is and how to use it to the best of its abilities. Because I have had plenty of conversations with people who are like, "Hey, I want to implement AI and I want it to um I don't even know, but like do something outlandish that it's like, hey, I think isn't there yet. And aside from it not being there yet, I don't think it also works that way. Like, what do you see when it comes to AI and um like predictive analysis or like being able to predict the future? Because from my understanding, AI is able to do a good job at executing based off of data that's already established, but maybe not be that effective when it comes to predicting future things. Like, what's your take on that?
Well, the AI is only good as you tell it what to do, right? You're planning. I think when you're utilizing AI, you should definitely focus a lot more on the planning stage, right? If you're using Claude, you have this thing called planning that you could utilize, especially if you're using Claude Code. And majority of the time, that's what you're doing because the execution might take a few minutes to a few hours, depending on how thorough your plan is. And that goes along with prompting. So, in terms of predicting the future, I don't think that it can unless that you provide enough context, provide enough historic background of what that is,
Mhm.
which is essentially what context is, in order for it to make a decision down the line. But at the end of the day, you still have to audit those decisions anyway. And
Right.
the more concrete that you get, the more context that you give it, the more likely it will turn out the way that you want it to be, depending on what that is, obviously.
That's great. That's great. So, my mission for this episode is I want to be able to one give the audience context in terms of who you are, what you do, give them information on AI, maybe the future state of it, at least from your lens. But more than that, I want to be able to take the person who isn't really using AI in their business at all or in their life at all right now, and by the end of this episode, they have a somewhat clear roadmap in terms of where to start in their AI journey. So I want to start off with really, is AI going to take everyone's job? Because that's like the $1 million question. Is AI replacing everyone's job?
So, number one, no, it doesn't replace anyone's job. It does replace it does replace the jobs that people aren't using AI, right? And if you look at it at a microscopic lens, like what is a job? A job is essentially you doing a series of tasks. And then for you to do the series of tasks required to have a certain skills,
Right.
right? Now, if you're utilizing AI to create those skills, which you can using Claude skills, and essentially you build out those skills, you debug those skills, and then those skills, depending on the repetitions, decision making, and also again context, right? You're able to create something out of it. You're able to do the task for it. And then the more tasks that you're doing, now you're doing a full-time job, right? Depending on what that is. If you're doing code, obviously it will write code for you, depending on what you're planning, right? And then essentially from a human perspective, you just audit and make sure that it's doing the right thing. Everyone's like nowadays like a QA engineer at this point, all right? So you're just like
Right.
testing it out, audit it. Now if they're doing something bad, now you're just trying to debug and figure out what that is. That's probably like the majority of the things that I do now. It's like, all right, something breaks, all right, let's fix it, let's figure it out, and then plan for the next stage. But I don't think that it will take a lot of people's jobs. It will automate more, and then that will decrease the amount of job because if you think about it, right? If you look at Claude, their head of marketing or their marketing person is just one person, right? So now you have one person doing a billion things. And same thing for me as I'm running my multiple businesses. I have AI to help me out probably 50 to 70% of the task itself. And then the rest of them is me trying to figure out how can we make it better? What are the things that's going wrong? What are other people are utilizing for me to either replicate and then use for my business? Like those
Mm,
are essentially what I'm doing on a daily basis while also planning and then figuring out what is working, what's not working.
that's great. That's great. I I think that that leads me into like my next point of curiosity. And I feel that this is something actually that I just started doing for myself. I was using ChatGPT for the since it came out. I love ChatGPT. I've done great things with it. I've used it, but now I've transferred over to or transitioned to Claude, just because of the ability that you're able to use the code aspect of it. Claude skills. It sounds more
Sure.
like a human. It's more intellectually advanced, whatever it may be. So for the person who isn't using AI yet, or may just be using ChatGPT and not even paying for the pro plan, what LLMs should they start off with? Is it Claude? Is it Gemini? Is it Perplexity? Is it OpenAI?
Honestly, it really depends on your use case. I think ChatGPT is more like a catch-all, and obviously, depending on what you prompt it to be, or like the settings, right? You could set up the settings in terms of how do you want it to answer. And majority of the time, if you ask it, it's like, "Hey, ChatGPT, how are you?" It's like, "Hey, I'm good," and then give you like a blob of irrelevant answers on top of it. Claude is more like a mentor and more straight to the point that people prefers. And yes, both works. I think if you're just starting out, figuring out what you want it to do first, like what's your end goal. And you could even ask, right? You can even ask ChatGPT, it's like, hey, my name is this, I'm doing this, I need help with
Right.
this. What is the proper planning for me to utilize you moving forward? And then it'll give you an answer. And then you could go back and forth and figure out that way. But essentially,
Yes.
it comes down to it's a tool, like, right? What are you trying to build? What are you trying to automate? What are you trying to fix? What are you trying to plan? Like, those are things that you can utilize the chat version of these LLM models. And then afterwards, once you expand into understanding what you really want to do, then you could expand into like these workflows, these automations, all these fun stuff. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to you and what do you want to do.
That's great. I'm going to go on record and say this because I would like to identify someone who is in the AI space because I'm using AI in my business, and if there's any room for AI, I'm pretty on top of it. You know, building out the systems, trying to optimize my workflows and make the most of it because I truly believe in the abilities of AI, and I don't want to be one of those people that 10 years from now, because I didn't dedicate the time to learn and to implement, now I'm behind the eight ball and competing with people who have 100x leverage over me and my business, you know? So I'm going to say this as an AI first person. I believe that choosing an LLM really comes down to familiarizing yourself with its capabilities. Like, for example, something I came across the other day was I've been using Claude for Claude Code, Claude Skills for OpenClaw, but I've been using ChatGPT for image generation
Sure.
and specifically for my identity based motivation post for the One Club, where I have a prompt that I just throw in there and it spits a high quality image. And what I started to see is that all these other motivational pages are using ChatGPT's image generation tool or skill, whatever you want to call it. And I feel that there's a place where you can use and you can mix these different tools because they are experts in their own ways. You know, it like you said, it all comes down to what is it that you are trying to do with the LLM, you know, or the tool. So I will stamp that because I'm doing it in my businesses now. I would say that you agree with that, and it's something that works too. So don't feel, for those of you listening, don't feel that if you have a ChatGPT subscription, you should replace that for Claude. Like, there's a world where you can use both and leverage both of them, right?
Yeah, I mean, these are at the end of the day are just tools. Some works better than the other. For example, yes, ChatGPT works for a catch-all general consensus, right? And also building out your memory. Claude is the same thing, but then the cons of Claude is like you could use up tokens relatively fast. Now, if you're trying to utilize something like a research, Perplexity might be a great way to kind of summarize and create an AI. Like that's what they're known for with their models as well. But there's a ton of other like tools, but essentially just start with one and then expand more and then try out another one so you don't overwhelm yourself, especially when you first get started.
Mm, that's huge, dude. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
The next segue I want to go into. So now we've identified the LLM side of things to be familiar with these tools, know what ChatGPT is or OpenAI, Claude, Anthropic, whatever it may be. Um, for the person who's now identified that and now wants to start automating workflows, what does that process look like?
Well, like we mentioned in the earlier part of the podcast, right, is understanding what task do you want it to automate. the administrative stuff when sending out contracts, or maybe add a certain things to your CRM. Like those are essentially things that you can start doing workflows, or that you could ask questions in terms of, let's say, since we're both in a real estate field, we could ask, hey, is this deal a good deal? If so, why? If not, why? Right? And then you provide all the comps, like comparable sales. You could provide all the context in terms of the property descriptions and characteristics. And then now it will do a little bit of research, economic research, for example. Okay, great. In this general area, this might be good or this might be bad. This is the median income. Like all of that are essentially important things for someone to make a decision whether to buy or sell a home. So those are essentially a couple of things that you could do. Essentially, number one, you could automate the administrative tasks. And then number two, you could summarize information from the online resources that you have in order for it to create an answer for you or to create a roadmap for you.
Okay. So there's two things I want to discuss here and pick your brain on. One, the whole automation aspect. That's because we have like automation, which is if this then that, and now we're introducing a whole side of AI that's the agentic AI, where OpenClaw comes into the game and now executes for you, which is a form of automation. I'm going to say so. Where how does someone automate a repetitive task? Let's say that I know exactly what my process is. I know the pattern. I know all my manual inputs. Now I just want to automate it. What's my next step?
So number one is you got to figure out what triggers it, right? That's always the top, whether that's you manually triggering it or that there's something that's triggering it. And then the more specific example is that once we have a deal under contract, especially in our wholesaling business, it will move to a pipeline that says under contract. And that's the trigger. Or that we could manually say under contract, right? And then now it's officially under contract. What happens is during that entire workflows, now it will jump into our disposition pipeline, right? Under new contract. So that's action number one. Action number two, notify on the disposition manager. Number three, it will create a disposition description of, okay, so
Mm,
this is 3 beds, 1 bath. This is the characteristics. This is the background, right? There's a what we call like a knowledge base of the deal that is essentially providing all the proper information for us to post it in our website to list the property, and also for our dispo manager to understand fully what the deal is. But that's just one part of like the automations that we're utilizing, because we realize that, listen, this is like a process that we have done in the past of like, okay, new deal, it goes to the next person takes over, the next person have to learn a little bit more about the deal. So that's why we have the summary. And then the next person will have to create, have their own to-do list to
right.
obviously sell the deal.
That's cool. I I'm curious because you have a good amount of AI infrastructure, I'm going to call it at this point, because you have like anywhere from like links on your Instagram to a couple different tools and cool things that people who are not following you and want to follow you could be like, oh wow, this guy is well versed in the AI space. I'm jealous, but that's not what we're going to talk about. But I know that, so I'm familiar with, Go High Level has a good amount of AI capabilities, AI features, and also the opportunity to integrate third party tools, right? But then you also have things like make.com or Zapier. For someone who's looking to just automate some repetitive tasks, maybe not go too in depth yet, what would you recommend them start off with? Is it go high level and replace their CRM, or use things like make.com or Zapier?
Most of the CRM nowadays should have automations. If not, they're falling behind. If you're utilizing automations, you have to just utilize from what you have. Most realtors, they probably have to follow up boss. There's automations on that, but sometimes there are limitations of what those automations are. Now, that's when, like you mentioned, the make.com of the world, the Zapier of the world, the N8N of the world, these are integrators of some sort. They provide a connections, usually through API or another different type of source as well. And Zapier is another one of them, for it to integrate to other third-party software in order to create the task or to whatever that task is, if it cannot be done from the native software, which is typically in a CRM.
Okay, that's pretty cool. You did a really good job at explaining that. I appreciate that. Just because like I want to AI is very complex, you know, and there's a lot going on in the AI space. So I'm trying to approach this conversation as a person who's very interested in AI but has no idea what it does or how to use it. So thank you for breaking it down that way.
Sure.
You I want to put the spotlight on what you got going on with AI. Like what where in your life is AI present? You know, give us maybe like an insight into the systems you're using, the cool things you've been able to create using AI.
Well, I don't know where to start.
Or give me the top three that you've been able to leverage and have been the most effective for you and your business.
So essentially, for us, I mean, we utilize AI a lot within our real estate business. We have a lot of AI comping tools. We have AI pre-qualifying the sellers. Now we also have AI pre-qualifying the buyers as well. And what that means is that we legit have AI having conversations with them through text, through calls, and people are having conversation with our AI, and then it goes to our list of CRM, and then essentially it's up to us to close on a deal, right? But the AI essentially covers 70% to 75 to maybe 80% of the whole thing, and then what we have to do as humans or the team members within the company is to close on those deals, because at
Right.
the end of the day I think that there's still some human element to be involved in, and maybe in
Of
the
course.
future there's somebody, an AI, that could put out offers, negotiate on our behalf. I think that's coming soon, definitely. But
Mhm.
for now, the pre-qualification of asking the redundant questions, right? Because as we doing these outbounds or inbound leads from our sellers, what are the things that we want to know? Price, conditions, timeline, motivations, and maybe occupancy, right? Those are the same thing that is being done to every single seller or motivated sellers in that regards. So we have that dialed in, and then the AI is having conversations with them, whether through text or calling. That's one big part that we're utilizing, and we've been effectively getting between 5 maybe to 10 leads per day utilizing that, and then follow up sequences as well to follow up, and then essentially same thing, having conversations, just a different type of AI where now you're just following up with them. You have an existing knowledge base or brain about the deal. You're just trying to confirm whether they're still selling or whether the facts are still the way they are. That's one
Nice.
part. And then another part is I have what is called the AI operating system, where
Mhm.
now you have kind of like a control system, for lack of a better word, and then it connects to many different things that is involved with AI. But that's like super complex. So when somebody asks me what AI tools that I use just about everything, right? So I think we were talking about it. Claude is usually for planning and to understanding like the entire process. ChatGPT have this thing called Codex, which is essentially a kind of workhorse of itself, where it provides a lot of back end coding. If I was going to create a website, I want to create an app, so I use that as well. And then just in case if I want to dive deep into a certain things or certain subjects or certain topics, right? I would use Perplexity to create a summary or to grab all those informations and then to summarize it in a way that I wanted to have. So that's just like a small tidbit of what I'm doing on a daily basis. There's definitely a lot more, but I don't want to overwhelm your users
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
things that we have. But again, start off small, work your way up, understanding what's the bottleneck within your business or your personal life, and then figuring out how AI can help with that, whether that's through the integrations that we were talking about, N8N or Make or Zapier, or even just using like a Claude code. I think that's super beneficial. And then maybe once you get a little bit more advanced, now you start utilizing APIs, MCP, right? All of those stuff can get super complicated really fast, but that all boils down to understanding what you want it to do.
That's great. I'm over here for those of you watching the video version of this episode. I'm taking my notes so you guys can see me. For those tuning in via audio, I am very much on top of this because as much as I'm educating myself in the AI space, it's still such an open, abundant area of just like so much opportunity where it's like, hey, I know things you may not know, you know things I may not know. So this is all fruit, you know. So if you guys are listening to this episode, make sure you're taking your notes, the terms he's using, the names of the companies, just jot them down and do your research. And the best thing about AI is that makes doing research really easy and accessible to the point where if you hear something like MCP, I think you just brought it up, you could just type it into ChatGPT and say, hey, what is MCP and how can I use it? And it'll give you, I would say, an action item based off of that. I want to go back to where you said AI is speaking to your leads or doing the whole pre-qualification process and basically just qualifying your lead and then you guys step in to close. Is that an automation you got going on there, or is that an actual AI agent that is speaking to this lead?
It's actually an AI agent that's speaking to it. If you want to, we could probably test it out.
Let's do it. I'm for it.
All right. I'll call them from my phone and hopefully the mic can pick it up, but let me know if it's not picking up correctly.
Yeah.
So 267.
Guys, this is a hands-on experience here.
Hello, this is Ava. Thanks for calling. Real quick, are you looking to sell your property?
I am.
Got it. What are you thinking about selling?
I'm going through a tough time right now and just really want to sell.
I hear you. It sounds like this has been weighing on you. What would selling the property help with most?
I just want money at this point. Just give me money. Just what's your offer on my property?
Totally understand. Sounds like getting a clear offer is the priority. The offer really depends on a couple of things, like the property's condition and your timeline. And let me ask, how's the place holding up? Any major repairs or updates needed?
Yeah, it probably needs some touch ups. Well, are you an AI?
No, I'm able with the team. I'm just here to help make this process smooth for you. So when you say touch ups, are we talking minor fixes like paint, or is it more expensive?
No, like major stuff. Like it's falling down. There's like an earthquake that about to happen. You know, just a house. I can't walk on a house right now.
Uh-huh. Got it. It sounds like the property needs quite a bit of work and it's been tough to manage. How long has it been like that?
Well, listen, can you give me an offer? Like I talk too much already. Just give me an offer right now.
Yeah. I get that you're looking for a straightforward answer. The next step is setting you up with James, who'll dig into the details and give you a clear number. He's quick and there's no obligation. Let's get you on his calendar. What day works best for you?
So that's essentially our AI is having conversations, and it still baffles me to this day that like people would have a 10-minute, 15-minute conversation with our AI. And as you can see, there's like different inflection points that the AI would have. And then depending on your answers, like I gave it some crazy, outrageous answers, and it would still go to the point and ask like deeper questions about what the property is.
Dude, that is sick, and I'm so happy that you were able to do, like, a live demonstration because one thing is to talk about it, one thing is the theory, but when you're really able to practice it, it gives the people listening, like, "Oh, holy shit" moment, you know? It's really
Sure.
the way to
Yeah.
put it. Now 2 things. 1, the other reason why I love that you had the real life scenario to play out is because as much as there is opportunistic AI, there's also really bad AI. And I'm gonna go
Absolutely.
on the record because this podcast isn't something that's reaching millions yet, so I'm not gonna get sued for any of this. But Sora, I think, is terrible in my own opinion. I've used it. It's you can look at it at what it puts out and you know it's AI. And that's like what doesn't really sit well with myself. But like what you just demonstrated, it doesn't even feel sounds like AI. Like it pivots with you as like a normal human being would be. Going into the next thing I wanted to ask you, is that like something like VAPI that you have integrated there?
So it's a mixture of 11 Labs and retail. And obviously we tailor it even deeper of like the inflection points and then our prompting and then the if and then, right? There's complex stuff that goes on the back end that we have a lot of trials and errors to essentially fix those things, especially because our prompt is like yay long. It's like super long because we went through so many different, number one, psychological things, right? Because the AI is a salesperson, and then you got to think like a salesperson. And you have to go through different scenarios and different situations of when somebody said this, then respond in a way kind of like this, because you can't say, because now it sounds robotic of this and that, right? But you have to make sure that it's flexible, but at the same time understand what the goal is.
What the goal is. That's cool. What is 11 Labs? Because I've heard of it. I've never played around with it, but what is 11 Labs?
It's a similar thing to Vappy and Retail. Like all of this are essentially voice agents, and they have different voices. They have different UI, right? That's essentially how you configure these AI voices or AI texting, and then they integrate very well with other softwares.
Wow, that's sweet, man. Something else that comes to my mind every day, really, man. It's keeping up with all the AI that's coming out, because every other day you have a new tool coming out. That's kind of like AI is just shifting every single day, and it's only been around for a couple of years. Like, to think what's going to happen in the future, you know. And I think for me, at least, the biggest announcement of AI that actually works and changes the game is OpenClaw. And it's very surprising to me the amount of people that still aren't even aware of it. And you guys can see I'm not a gatekeeper because I'm putting this out publicly. Like, dude, OpenClaw has been able to do great things for me already. I'm sure you're using it, right?
I'm actually not. I use a lot of
Wow.
Claude. I don't use the
There
OpenClaw.
you
I
go.
know there's some. Well, they just got purchased by ChatGPT, I believe.
Really? I didn't know that.
They just bought
Interesting.
by ChatGPT, and because of, well, this is kind of like an AI drama with Claude, with at least around this time that we're recording this, there has been a lot of complaints that tokens are being used up at extraordinary rates that people can't even utilize that. And one of the things they cut out, which is Anthropic, which is the parent company of Claude, is that they no longer integrate with OpenClaw, and now they just want to utilize, because think about it, right? This is the back end of AI. I think a lot of people understands what AI and its capabilities, but the amount of resources in terms of electricity, manpower, right, land, takes into account, because when you're asking all these questions and executing all of these tasks, it requires a lot of power. It's a lot of
Yeah.
watts, a lot of electricity that nowadays we can't even utilize as much because it's being used up. And then now they're building up, like, especially in, like, and this is me going on a tangent, but like in parts of Virginia, right? They're building out all these data mining um,
Center.
industry, and
Yeah.
that's essentially causing a lot of disruptions within the AI space, and also like number one, like the energy space, right? And especially in real estate too, because now you have this big companies that's buying $1 billion worth of buildings or land that there's no tenants in there. It's just a bunch of computers, and you're paying people to make sure that the computers work. But that's
Seriously.
essentially like the cause of AI, like the chat GPT of the world. That's why chat GPT is losing a lot of money, because every time someone uses it for free, which is fine, right? Because we're just regular people and using chat GPT. But now when you're using it up, it actually uses resources, and that's why they're losing money the way
Wow.
they are at this time.
So this is just like a huge operation, dude. Of like, I feel a lot of people. I mean, man, even me. Like, I thought AI just came from the sky. When you actually
No,
you realize that it's taking a toll on the economics, the physical resources, and all that stuff. This is like something personal. The other day, I don't know if I can say this, but I'm going to say it. I don't advise anybody to do this. I did it at my own risk, but using OpenClaw, you have the option to um, use a token, which is also called like OAuth, or pay per API call, which paying per API call can get really expensive really quick, especially if you're someone like me that loves just playing around with the AI. When you use the OAuth method or tokenized method, it's almost like Anthropic subsidized their API usage for saying, hey, for $200 a month, you basically get like around $15,000 worth of uh, API calls. But it looks like Anthropic caught up to me and everyone else who's doing that, because they sent out an email the other day saying that we will no longer be able to use like the tokenized method. Moral of the story, they said that if you want to continue using OpenClaw with Anthropic, you have to pay per API call. Do you know anything about that? Because that's honestly something that I have to tackle tonight, because I'm like, dude, I had this project going and I feel that my OpenClaw bot is called Jarvis because my favorite superhero was Iron Man. So I called him Jarvis, and like I started to build a bond with this guy, and I don't want to lose him. So what's going on there?
Well, number one, because of the usage, and as you know, a lot of people such as yourself are swaying away from the open AI ChatGPT model all the way to Claude, just because of the answers that is more favorable to normal everyday users. So because of that, now you see a huge influx of users that's coming on board. And as I mentioned, the more that utilize these AI, the more resources that it have to use on a back end, right? And Anthropic don't really have that much. Now all the users are complaining with how it's utilizing a lot of these tokens, so to speak, using OpenClaw or even just the Claude subscriptions, right? Or people just utilizing for free by itself. Now it's like just using up too fast, and they don't have the bandwidth to kind of build that up. I mean, with ChatGPT, they're also losing a lot of money, but they're also using the Microsoft kind of like database, so that helps out. But at the same time, they're not paying like Microsoft. They're actually using like as a credit. So technically, they're not
Nice.
even gaining any revenue or some sort. They're just utilizing that in that some sort of partnership, but they're still using a lot of resources to pay for it because you have a bunch of users that's utilizing ChatGPT. So there's
Mm.
definitely like a lot of repercussions from using AI that people don't recognize until they start seeing like the after effects of these tokenized or like limiting the usage of the people
Yeah.
that's using
Dude,
AI.
it's something serious, because like I remember I installed OpenClaw at like 1 a.m. in the morning because I was down a rabbit hole using it. And I finally got it installed, and I'm like, okay, great. I was able to have a brief conversation with it. And then the next morning I wake up and I had it running off of Claude, and I was using Opus something, 5 point something, whatever it is.
4.6.
And it said 4.6, yeah. And it was like too many API calls, please retry later. So I start taking pictures of it using Claude, and I'm like, what does this mean? What does this mean? What does it mean? And it's telling me how there's so many people using Opus 4.6 that it's not available for me. So then I had to reset it and have it use Sonnet 4.6. And then I was able to play with it. But now it says API call limit reached. Please try again later. So now I'm like, where do I go from here? What's your advice to me? I'm trying to solve a personal matter right now.
Well, there's definitely solutions to it. Number one, you could have another subscriptions or just pay more on the API calls, right? That's probably the easiest way to go about it. The other way is utilizing other LLM models, or make sure that you have the Claude thing to have all the context that you have, and or the instructions that you wanted to have, to now start using a different model in order to for it to talk to each other. But yes, I
Got it.
mean, right now it's definitely like limitations because of the usage, because of the
Right.
resources that Anthropic seems like doesn't have that much, at least for the demand that it has currently in this current environment. So that's the alternative that we can utilize in your case.
I appreciate that, man. And listen, I know that was probably maybe a little bit of a selfish question because we're on a podcast educating the masses. But I do feel that someone listening to this podcast is probably dabbling with OpenClaw and had that same issue. So thank you, or you're welcome, because I answered the question for them too. The next things I like to really deep dive into what's going on, right? And like analyze things at a microscopic level. You just said that there's a lot of AI usage. There's a lot of demand for AI, but the supply is kind of falling behind in terms of like these data centers and the energy that's behind and all that stuff. Is there like a hidden investment in the AI space right now? Like, should people be investing in data centers or like electricity, or is there any hidden investment that you may think of?
I can't say for sure because I'm not a financial person that can provide financial advice. But there's I mean there's definitely like similar to the industrial revolutions or in
Mhm.
the past where there's a new technology advancement that's going to be there. And I think that for someone like us, where it's young, ambitious, and understand AI, we
And
can
handsome, and handsome.
enhance them. We take advantage of like all of this now. If it's taken away, now we're like, oh, we have to do things manual, right?
Yeah,
Because we're so used into the way that we do things. And sometimes like I think myself like I'm stupid. And it's like, what did I do last time? Oh, let me ask like the
yep,
LLM, and who knows me more than I know me. But
yeah,
now
exactly.
with that, we still have to go back into the roots of understanding human behaviors and then just fine tuning that. Because I think that in today's environment, you can be a founder. I can be, well, I am a founder, but you can build a software business out of thin air and then just monetize on it.
Yeah.
Everyone's nowadays is like a product developer. Everyone nowadays is like a QA engineer, right? All of these
Mhm.
technological buzzwords that now people are creating websites for using AI. I mean, not really the best, but like after debugging and building out the skills, like you can have those skills in a matter of minutes using
Yeah,
AI. But it all comes down to the most important thing, which is the human skill set that AI cannot replicate or replace. Number one is negotiations, sales, right? Those are things that AI, I mean, the AI can ask questions, but it can't really close a sale like that. That's why in our business, again, 70 to 80% of it is using AI, but then that last 20 to 30% is us closing the deals because there's
of
still a
course.
human element into having negotiations and ensuring that everyone is happy and everyone is closing on a deal and making sure that everything runs smoothly. But
That
yeah,
makes sense. That makes sense. Um, there I had a question, but it completely left my mind. Um, but let's segue. Hopefully, it'll come back to my mind.
sure.
What are you doing now to stay ahead with all the new AI tools? Like what like cuz I feel that I struggle with it too. I'm like there's so much AI being thrown at me at once that I can only doom scroll on TikTok for so long until I burn out. But like what does your process look like to stay ahead of the curve in terms of like new AI emerging?
Oddly enough, I don't use TikTok or I would watch like Instagram Reels or so, but it's mostly
Mhm.
like I'm getting married soon. I've been getting a lot of wedding algorithms and maybe some
Wow,
cat
congrats.
videos.
That's amazing. That's
But
amazing.
yeah, thank you. But I don't usually use those for aggregating data or aggregating news channels. I actually have an automation that's set up on the back end for myself that I would scrape, and then it happens at 7 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and around this time, like six or 5 o'clock. And what it does, it aggregates different news channels and scrape all those data, and then it creates like a summary. And what I usually do, this is part of my automations, it will create like 3 to 4 different steps, and then afterwards I'm using Gemini to summarize and then create tactical advice on what or like action items and how is that affecting my business. So it knows my business, it knows like the context in which it's pulling the data from, and then afterwards it creates a summary and action items at the bottom so then I could just read that portion of it.
Wow, that's sick. What if you don't mind me asking, what tools are you using to make that play happen?
So this is going to be super complex. All right. So I'll start off with the basics from the top, right? If I'm scraping data, I'm using Perplexity and Firecrawl. And then afterwards, if I summarize, I'm using Gemini because Gemini have a free API. So I'm using that to summarize it. And then I have a subscription to a VPS, which is kind of like a cloud-based system. Because
Mhm.
if you use something like OpenClaw or Cloud Code, typically it will save into your computer as a local file. And what happens if I close down my computer? Everything shuts off. So I have a VPS that's running on the cloud. Essentially, it's like, hey, I'm connecting to this, like this
Right,
computer in the cloud, for lack of a better word.
right.
And then now at a certain time, I'm going to trigger, right? Again, we talk about triggers, if and then, right? Trigger, like, hey, in this time, actions, find all of these relevant information using Google, using Perplexity, and then next action, summarize it to fits the bill of this context of this background of Aldo's business, and then create a summarizations and action items depending on the based on the data that we provide for you.
That's sick. That is sick. I think after hosting this podcast and everyone listening to it, everyone's gonna go on a huge AI tangent or whatever rabbit hole, because I don't know how people can't find this interesting. The amount of leverage that it's bringing to everyday life. Like, I don't even want to say just in business, but like there's a guy who, Cal AI, dude was like 19 years old and sold his business for like 8 figures. Or we have the other guy, I forget how old is he, but how old he is, but he was like, I think 46 or something like that. But he created his first $1 billion app with $20,000 AI agents and one actual employee. So AI is impacting society, dude. Like, it's changing the game for how we do everything. And
Sure.
I believe that it's really going to create a gap in terms of the people who are really winning the game and killing it, and the people who are just mediocre, average, and just cruise on a day-to-day basis. I also believe that it may not replace a bunch everyone's job, but it's going to replace low skill labor.
Sure.
Like the receptionist. No offense to receptionists, but like the receptionist, if your job is just answering phone calls and putting them into our CRM, I'm sorry, but I believe that in the next 5 years you're going to be without a job. You know, um, and other positions like that. So that's why I like to kind of deep dive into what the operation looks like, because to someone who listens to this, they're like, oh cool, it scrapes and it does this, but like that simple output that you just gave me vocally could be composed of 11 different tools. So it's cool to know what it does, but it's also good for someone to know, like, it's not just ChatGPT doing that. It's a couple different tools you're mixing and merging in order to create that output. Do you follow what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
I mean, it's important, right? I mean, all of these tools sounds great, and then everyone is gonna be like, "Wow, you're doing all these too." But essentially,
Mhm.
it boils down to like logic, right? Like, if you're reading the news, what do you hope to get out of it? Is it just for you to read and for entertainment? Possibly. But for me, as a business owner, I want to understand what's going on and how is that affecting me, right? Because I have to create now that's the automations. Okay, I'm going to pull out all this data compared to my own data. And then I want to have something that is essentially for me to do because that's the
Of
point
course.
of me reading the news. Or maybe for me to be informed of some sort and then maybe think about it down the line or add it as my to do list or maybe pivot and whatever it is. But that's still an action item. So that's why I think in today's environment, where you can make a lot of money is understanding the logic and then implementing on the ideas and then able to sell those ideas to people.
Yeah, you provided a great segue into the next part of this episode, which is getting to know what you do. You have two businesses, from my understanding, um, and also to lead that. You have these two businesses, but the question that I really want to pose out there is, for the person who wants to implement AI, like, we are almost an hour into this episode and we've touched a lot on different tools, different frameworks, what to do. And like, for the entrepreneur that is managing the day-to-day operations and has to make sure that leads are coming in and that we're closing deals to make money, they're like, wow, this is a lot. Like, I get it, guys. Like, AI is great, but I don't even have enough time to take a piss in peace. So how am I supposed to implement AI? Now let's go into your business. Like, how can someone implement AI that may not have the expertise or the time to implement it? Show's yours.
Well, number one is if you're a real estate investors and you're looking to scale your business using AI, I do have one of my companies, which is Automize CRM, where we have over 100 plus workflows that's already been done for you. And essentially all we need from you is you come on board, attach your calendar, and then do some little data mining and essentially blast out to different leads, and then everything will pre-qualify for you and then book appointments. Like that's essentially, we provide the
Nice.
data, the AI agents, and also in the CRM, all in one platform. Number two is like I also have like my own website, which is aldochandra.com, and that's essentially, I have a lot of tools there that your users can utilize and then play around with and see what the capabilities are. And then some of these tools can be for real estate investors, some of these tools are just for the general populations, along with the portfolio. And all that boils down to like my business day to day. I mean, if you're looking to buy or sell your home, like we have a platform for you to essentially submit your deals, which is Kaizen Home Buyers. And the same way that we make money in our real estate business, so it's the same way that we selling our kind of like CRM, right? So it works
Mhm.
for us. I mean, we've seen the numbers. We see our users are utilizing the AI and seeing deals come in through their inbox and their messages or their texts. It works for us, and I think it's going to work for anybody who's looking to invest in real estate as well or acquire more deals.
Of course. Th- This is just like out of pure curiosity. You are using AI to scale your real estate business, the home buying company, but you're also selling AI workflows and systems for other home buying companies. Like I'm sure you've addressed this question in your own mind, but like in a way, don't you see like maybe you may be fueling your own competitors? What does that look like?
I don't see it as fueling my competitors because it helps us if you do have a deal and then you want it to JV. I see collaborations more than anything else because now we're helping you find your own deals, right? And then if you do find a deal, you could do whatever you want with it. You could wholesale it, meaning you assign a contract for to another investor to make a little bit of a margins, which we are buying too. It's not that we're wholesaling everything. Like we're looking to buy our next flip, especially in the PA New Jersey market. So we're utilizing like the same tools that works for us for other people in order for us both to be successful. So that's the way I see it, as opposed to like, oh, we're providing you leads or we're your competitors. I think at the end of the day, we just want everyone to win.
That's it, man. It's instead of competition, it's collaboration. And I stand for that because there is plenty of food for all of us to eat. And I encourage everyone to live more in a world of collaboration rather than competition. Because I feel that competition in a healthy way is good for you. But there's a lot of people who are just competitive just to put you out of business and do bad things, you know. So I love that you have that perfect, I guess, like business models, you know, where it's like, hey, you're using everything that you're preaching and you're telling people to subscribe to and use. You're using it, but it's also out there for anyone else to implement because you genuinely believe in collaboration and you believe in the opportunity of everyone getting together and sharing resources. That's great, bro. I want to close out for a with a broad question of I want to use AI. Where do I start? What do I do?
Ask AI. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
But
that is very true.
at the end of the day, it all comes down to what are your goals? Right? What is it that you want to do in life? What is the things that you want AI to do? Because at the end of the day, it's just a tool. And then it all comes down to your idea, your planning, and let AI do most of the execution. If you're utilizing I mean, it's so much resource out there. You could just look up on Google or even ChatGPT nowadays, right? People don't use Google like that.
Mhm.
And ask, how can I use AI? And it's the same vague answers that you're probably going to get from me. So just to cut it short, it's like, ask yourself, what is it that you want to do? What is slowing you down in life and what is slowing you down in your business? Figure out what is the best tool in order to accelerate that. And at the end of the day, I think most people are looking for ways to make money using AI, and there's a lot of tools that you can utilize just for that. You could, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to the human like skills, right? What ideas do you have? What logic can help you? Because if it helps you, it help other people as
Of
well.
course.
And then now it all boils down to you building out that thing, that tool or software, and then essentially broadcasting out to the world. I think that's what the hardest thing right now with the influx of people being founders and the influx of people just literally built something, but they can't sell it. It's just helpful for them and themselves, but they don't realize it could help other people.
That's great. Thank you for answering that question. I hope that everyone listening to this podcast and making it this far can maybe identify one new tool that they haven't even heard before, and they can use it and implement it in their life and their business, or maybe even understand on a deeper level what AI is. And further than that, even just know where to get started with AI in terms of, hey, identify what it is you may want to automate or where AI can play a role in your life. That is what I was hoping for this episode. And I think you did a very great job at delivering that. Where can people find you? If people want to talk AI or if people want to sell their home in the PA, New Jersey area, where can people connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Our platform is kaizenhomebuyers.com. If you're looking to sell and buy your home, you could use that on there. If you're looking for a software, if you're a real estate investors and you've done a couple of deals and you're looking to scale using AI and not know where to go, then we also have the software that helps you find those deals. We use automizecrm.com, so you could schedule a demo. There's also a bunch of tools that you could utilize on there. Now, if you're trying to find me on the platforms, Aldo Chandra is in all platforms, and I'm constantly making videos about AI and also posting stuff about AI and what I'm utilizing on what tools. So I'm pretty transparent out there. So, and then you could also find me on my website, aldochandra.com.
Guys, Aldo Chandra, the man, the myth, the legend, talking AI and dropping game on today's episode of the One Club podcast. Dude, thank you so much for coming on, being transparent, and dropping game, dude. I really appreciate it. And I'm happy and I'm eager to continue working together in the future, across your projects, my projects, or even projects together, man. So from the bottom of my heart, and on behalf of this community I'm looking to build, thank you for bringing value to us today.
Thank you so much.
Of course, man. Guys, stay tuned for the next episode. Always feel free to leave comments or message us on our Instagram, oneclub_ on Instagram, or even DM me personally, or if you have my number, if we're that close, with any requests for future guests, topics to cover, or questions that you may have. Thank you guys again for tuning into the One Club podcast. This is episode 4. Excited to continue doing this. I hope you guys all can continue to kill it in your journey of holistic success. Thanks for tuning in, and till the next one.